Hello and welcome to this video, The 3 Ways of Knowing. This is one of the real jewels of wisdom inside this course, and it's a model that I developed to help me find a way to easily place my love of the mystical, magical, enchanted world of plant and spirit and place it next to intellectual rigor, scientific exploration and complexity. Find a way to sit them next to each other in an easy and clear way that didn't say one or the other had to be real. I hope it helps you with that too. So there are really 3 ways of knowing. I have mapped out this idea that we have 3 different ways of knowing, not just one, but 3. And the one that we're really familiar with is the top one up there, close to me. It's the mind, the mental way of knowing, scientific knowing. There are other 2 ways of knowing that we also are really familiar with, but we don't talk about them and we don't really validate them. We have the one all the way on that side, the body. So this is embodied wisdom, sensory knowing, things we feel to be true in our body, right? When we say, oh, it's cold today, that's embodied knowledge. It's not mental knowing. Although we can look at our phone and be like, oh, 12 degrees, it's cold today, right? That's 2 different ways of knowing the weather. Now, with our heart is also a beautiful sensory organ. Many cultures have thought of the heart as kind of a second brain, and even science is starting to catch up and get some interesting new ideas about the role of the heart in the body. With the heart, we have intuitive knowing or imaginal knowing. And these 3 ways of knowing are really important for us to incorporate and learn how to weave into each other. So when we look at the mind, scientific knowing tells us the details of something, the how, right? If you look at scientific medical understanding or scientific research, they're really good at saying, well, this herb has this specific chemical, these specific chemicals, and they work on this specific cellular pathway. It's very detailed, it's really micro, and it's very much how, the mechanism. And this is really, really useful for confirming what we are feeling with our bodies or sensing with our heart. Checking traditional knowledge and being like, so does valerian really work to support sleep? And how does it do that? What else can we know if we dig down into it? Our sensory knowing through the body, embodied knowing, is about, what we can feel from a plant. When we taste the plant, we taste it, we feel its action in our body, we feel the response our body has. This tells us the what. So there's a lot of traditional medicine concepts that we'll explore later on, like herbal energetics and flavor theory, that are really focused on embodied or sensory knowing. Now, in this embodied knowledge, it's not just what we can feel with our own bodies, it's also the accumulated practical knowledge through many generations. So when you look at a textbook and it says traditionally used for ... we know that many different herbalists, healers, wise women, witches, curanderos have used a herb for something and found that it worked, right? That is a kind of practical, embodied knowledge that is accumulated and passed down. Yeah? So traditional knowledge of plants sits there. Now, the 3rd way of knowing, this imaginal knowing, is the one that is hardest for us in our culture because we've had it kind of systematically discouraged. All little children can talk to flowers and, dream with clouds and, have this incredible imagination and a feeling sense that we then often lose as we go through our growth and maturation into adulthood in the West, yeah? So this is the one that I found the hardest, but doing this kind of work with plants has really helped me develop this sense. It's the place of dreams and visions and insight. It's who. If scientific knowing is the how and sensory knowing is the what, then the imaginal knowing is the who. Who is this plant? Who is this being? It's a world of spirits and enchantment and mysticism. It's the magic that weaves through life. And when you go somewhere or you meet someone, you're like, ooh, I just have a bad feeling about this. That's imaginal knowing. That's the heart speaking to us. Now, a lot of traditional cultures, a lot of in the Amazon and many different traditional tribal peoples have said, when anthropologists have asked them or ethnobotanists have asked them, how did you learn this stuff about plants? How did you know that combining these two herbs together would create this powerful medicine for something, right? And they said, well, the plants told us. Now, maybe they are referring to psychedelic spaces, which is very much an imaginal knowing space, or maybe they're referring to simply meditation, extrasensory perception, communication with plant spirits, dreams and visions, yeah? So this is an area that is really fun to explore and to ask ourselves, what will happen if we lean into our heart as a way of knowing? Now, the structure of this course has been designed so that we put the mind aside during the week, we take the herb without knowing what it is, and we create space for our embodied knowing and our imaginal knowing to come forth. When we create that space, we start to learn to trust those ways of knowing, and we start to get confirmation from the group that we're on the right track, right? Because of course, the intuitive sense, the heart, the imaginal, the intuitive sense feels very similar to imagination, feels very similar to paranoia sometimes. Do I have an intuition about this thing being dangerous, or am I just paranoid? Do I have a feeling that this place is going to be a really good home for me, or do I just really want that and I'm just imagining it, right? Without a way of actually practicing this kind of knowing, we never get better at differentiating between those things. This is an extra bonus kind of benefit from doing a study like this with plants. Leave the plants aside. Learning how to hone your intuitive skills and trust them and know when it's your intuition and when it's just your fantasy is a really useful skill to have in so many areas of life. Now, back to the plants and 3 ways of knowing. So I believe that true insight lies in the place where mental knowledge, embodied knowledge, and imaginal knowledge overlap. You see over there's a little white triangle right in the center of that diagram. That's where real insight, real wisdom lies. We often make the mistake in our culture, not just with plants, with so many different things, that we think if we get more data, which lives in the mind area, if we get more data and do more tests and more data, then eventually that data and that information will transform into true insight and wisdom into whatever topic we're exploring. But that just isn't true. You can't fill up that one bucket and not fill up the other buckets and hope that that magical triangle in the middle emerges, right? Wisdom lies in the place where these 3 ways of knowing overlap and interact. So scientific and mental knowledge is important, but no more important than embodied knowledge, embodied wisdom and sensation, and no more important than our intuition and our heart sense of things. When we can bring these all together, we get something really special. What I often see in the herbal world and in our greater society is a polarization. People putting, the heart and the imaginal knowing on either on one end and being all the way down there. And just everything's about my intuition, my feeling, my sense of things. And what you get if you get only heart knowledge and none other, we can really easily get into fantasy and delusion. When we go right down the other end and we only have mental knowledge, we're just science, just data, there's no space for anything else, then what we get is really dry and it often lacks the essence. It tells us a lot about something, but we still never really know the thing. We get into a different kind of delusion, a delusion of, non-animate, of dismembered parts of an earth that work almost like a machine. You're machine thinking. On the other end, we get this fantasy and delusion. So bringing them together is really important. And in this course, I focus on that embodied and that imaginal knowing purely because they're the areas where most of us are lacking. And it's so easy. I've got so many textbooks. There are so many amazing YouTube videos of great herbalists giving us lots of data and information about plants. We don't need more of that. We need more of these other things. That's it for now. Thank you so much. I hope that's useful for you as a way to place these things together and integrate possibly different parts of who you are and how you learn into a greater whole. And I will see you in the next video.